If no one's ever told you this before, every brand offer that you get is negotiable. But I know that it can be really intimidating, especially if you're a newer content creator, to actually negotiate with brands. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through learning about industry pay standards so you can understand if you're being offered a fair rate, some of the factors that can affect your rate as an influencer, and some of my best tips for negotiating paid brand deals. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Austin and I am a fashion and beauty content creator based in New York City. And I've got a new filming background today. I hope you guys like it. I use this channel to help micro-influencers grow their digital brands, create amazing content, and create sustainable income from content creation. So if any of that interests you, please consider subscribing to my channel for new videos every Tuesday. I am a micro-influencer, but I'm also a full-time content creator, meaning that all of the money I make comes from my content creation and social media presence. I have 12,000 Instagram followers, 20,000 TikTok followers, and 6,500 of you here on YouTube. And I am not a huge influencer, but I do make money from brand deals. I would say brand deals typically make up between 50 and 60% of my yearly income as a content creator. And over the years, I've learned how to negotiate four-figure brand deals for myself, even as a small creator. And this is why I'm so happy to be sitting down and filming this video today, to share some of my best tips and best practices with you so that you can feel confident when you're negotiating with a brand. Now, just to ease your mind, there are actually only 3 things that will ever happen if a brand reaches out to you with a collaboration offer. You can accept the offer, you can decline the offer, or you can ask to change something about the offer, and that's where you enter the negotiation stage. Now, the first thing that I would recommend doing is getting a sense of what industry pay standards actually are, so you can tell if you're getting a fair offer from a brand or if they may be trying to take advantage of you and ask for too much. So I have 3 different resources for you for learning about industry pay standards. The first is to join different Facebook groups of content creators and do a search in the Facebook group. Just search the word rates or deliverables and see what comes up, because a lot of people in Facebook groups are very transparent about their rates, and as a result, these groups are a bit more exclusive to join, so you will need to be a content creator to join a lot of these, and you may have to provide your URL or your Instagram handle to get approved to join the group. Some of my favorites for this are the Hermana Influencer Network, the Reward Style Bloggers Facebook group, the Influence Her Collective, Boss Girl Bloggers, and Freelancing Females. So if you search any of those Facebook groups and look for rates, you'll be able to find more information and real-life examples. The next resource I'd recommend checking out are articles on both Business Insider and HuffPost, where some influencers have been interviewed by these publications and actually shared what they got paid for different brand campaigns. I actually wrote a few of these for HuffPost back in my days as a freelance writer, so I'll leave some links for you down below in case you'd like to check them out. And the last resource is called FUPayMe, and it is basically like the Glassdoor of influencer marketing. So in order to join, you will need to submit a review of a brand collaboration that you've done. And once you submit that one review to their catalog of over 2,000 brands that have been reviewed there, you'll see access to everyone else's reviews, and you can see how much they were paid, what their deliverables were, different topics like usage and exclusivity, which we'll be talking about later on in this video, and just get a sense of if other people have been paid by the brand and also what their experience working with the brand was like. Some brands still just can't really wrap their heads around the fact that content creation is a real job. It takes so much time and effort to get right. Let me know in the comments down below. Have you ever been told by a brand that your rate was too high, or that there are other creators out there who are accepting this rate and so you should too? I know it can be frustrating, but I actually do have something that you can say back to brands if they ever mention this to you. So be sure to stick around till the end of this video, because I'll address it after I go through my other points. Now, when it comes to determining your rates and pricing yourself, it can be really tricky because there is no one-size-fits-all pricing models for your influencer business. Not only that, but your prices can also fluctuate and change over time based on different conditions and also how fast you're growing online. But what I've done is I've separated a list of all the factors that can impact your rate, and I've put them into 2 different buckets: creator-specific factors and then campaign-specific factors. I think breaking it down this way will be really helpful so you can determine what is just dependent on you as a content creator and what sets your rates versus some specific asks of the brand for their particular campaign that they're looking to cast you for. So I want to go through these pretty quickly in list format and just define all of these terms so that you know what to look out for and you can better understand how they fit into the context of a larger conversation with a brand. Let's start out with the creator specific factors. So the first one I want to point out is previous professional experience. For example, I'm a former magazine editor and a former content director. So those experiences make me unique as a creator and inform my experience when I work with brands. And as a result, they do bump my rates up a little bit. Another creator specific factor is the engagement and reach of your content. If you have a highly engaged audience, that is something worth pointing out to brands and charging for accordingly, whether you have lower engagement or medium engagement or high engagement for your niche. Another creator specific factor is your own expertise. So you might be a creator who just creates natural hair content, and that is something that is worth charging more for because there are fewer creators out there who just focus on that type of content. They are getting a hyper targeted audience with a very knowledgeable creator in that area. Another one is location. So for example, I live in New York City and the cost of living here is very high, especially compared to some other areas. So I do factor that into my rates, especially now that I'm a full-time content creator when I'm pricing out my rates for brands. Another creator specific factor could be your equipment. So if you shoot with a DSLR camera and you edit in Photoshop and Lightroom, those are all expenses that you need to offset with the cost of your services as a creator. So you should be charging more for things like that. If you have like a drone or something crazier, that might even be a higher tier that you offer to brands versus if you're shooting with your iPhone. Similarly to the example I provided with the natural hair content creator in the expertise field, if you are part of a community that's a bit marginalized, for example, if you are a BIPOC creator or an LGBTQ+ creator, and a brand is working with you to also specifically target those groups and those audiences, then you should be charging more for that as well because there are fewer creators like that and those audiences are going to be very receptive to the content that you put out, especially if it is, Pride Month, if it's Black History Month, keep those things in mind. So those are my 6 creator specific factors that I think you should take into account when pricing yourself, regardless of what the brand is asking for with their campaign specific deliverables. Now let's talk about adding in those campaign specific factors that can impact your rate. And I'm going to list them off in a format just like I did with the creator specific factors. But if you want a deeper dive on any of these terms, I actually do have this video right here that I made last year where I walk you through a longer explanation of what all of these mean. So if you're unfamiliar with any of these terms, I would suggest adding that video to your watch later playlist and circling back to it after you're done with this one. So here are 8 campaign specific factors that you should consider when you're negotiating with brands. Number 1, usage rights. If the brand wants to use your content in any paid media or marketing materials like a newsletter ad or a paid social ad or even up on a billboard or in a commercial, you should be charging more for that. On a related note, number 2 is exclusivity. So if you are being asked by a brand to refrain from working with their competitors, especially if they're within your own niche, that could be a loss of work for you. And so you should charge the brand accordingly based on how long the window of exclusivity is. Number 3 is content type. So there are 3 main types of content you can create. You can create audio or written content, you can create photo content, or you can create video content. So you should definitely be pricing video higher than you would price photo, and think about that when you are negotiating with a brand. Another campaign specific factor is the scope of work. So overall, how many deliverables or individual content pieces is the brand requesting from you? Because if the brand just wants an Instagram post, that's one thing. But if they want an Instagram post, a TikTok post, and 3 Instagram stories, you should be pricing out what each of those would be internally to you and then send the brand a rate for all of those deliverables. Number 5 is sensitive topics. So if you are doing anything that is political, if you're doing anything that's related to health and wellness, if you're doing anything that's related to you know, just big social issues out in the world. I do think that those sensitive topics require a lot of time and attention to detail when you're creating that content, and so you should be charging accordingly. Number 6 is the timeline. So how long do you have to create the content, and how quickly does a brand need you to turn that content around to them? Because if it is under a week, I would charge the brand a rush fee. Number 7 is revisions or reshoots. So if you create the content following the brand guidelines, but for one reason or another, they ask you to reshoot it, look in your contract to see if there are any revisions or reshoots involved in there, and think about what you would charge if you were asked to reshoot the content. And the last one is time of year. So we are just wrapping Q4 when I'm filming this video. This has been my busiest season for brand deals as a content creator, and as a result, I've said no to brand deals that have offered me honestly less than 4 figures during this time, because I just knew I wouldn't be able to accommodate them. And I've really been picky and chosen to focus more on the brands that can meet my rates, and meet my rates that are slightly higher than normal because of how busy it is. So I hope that hearing those campaign specific factors and creator specific factors gives you a better idea of how you can walk into these negotiations and feel confident. I know that was a lot of information, but I think it's really important to list all of those factors out. And now I just want to move into 5 quick tips that I have for negotiating brand deals. First and foremost, keep it short and sweet. You don't need to send the brand a long-winded email explaining all of the cost that goes into every single one of your deliverables. You can see what they want and say back to them, thanks for reaching out. My rate for the requested deliverables is X. Please let me know if we can move forward. That's it. You don't need to say anything else. My second tip is to ask for everything they want up front. They may not say it, but that doesn't mean they're not thinking it, or that they won't try to sneak it into your contract later. So when they reach out, if they just mention content, just make sure to clarify. Go back through those campaign-specific factors I was mentioning. Does the brand want any usage rights for this? Will there be any exclusivity? What is your turnaround for this project? So that you have an idea of what you're getting into before you send a rate that doesn't reflect some of those things. And then related to that, number 3, read your contract and wait, once you've read it, read it a second time, just because you never know when one of these terms is going to pop up in there that maybe you didn't agree to. And if you want some more tips for reading contracts and what I would watch out for, I do have this video right here where I do a longer explainer. Tip number 4 is to stand your ground, and it doesn't have to be in a rude way. It can just be in a respectful way. You know, if a brand is asking for well below what you quoted them, just stand your ground and say, I'm sorry, this is my rate for this piece of content. It's the same way where you might be looking to hire a plumber with like 1 year of experience and no reviews online versus 20 years of experience and great reviews. Those are 2 things are probably going to cost something different. So stand your ground. And tip number 5 is know when to walk away and know that it's okay. If you're saying no to something now, it means you're leaving room for something better to happen in the interim. And that doesn't have to even be related to brand deals. I know for me over the summer, I really didn't take on any brand deals, which was a little scary as a new full-time content creator, but there wasn't anything I was truly interested in or that I thought my audience would like. And instead I used that time to build some new digital products, which I currently earn passive income from. And taking advantage of that slower season also set me up for success so that I could continue to just say yes to things that I really am interested in. And my closing thought here is about if a brand comes back to you and says, well, there are other influencers who accepted our initial offer who charge way less than you do, or, you know, your rate is way too high for this. No one gets to determine your worth other than you. And for me personally, I know as a micro influencer on paper, it might be surprising to a brand that I charge what I charge, but once I explain to them, you know, my professional background, my experience, how I treat campaigns, and once they realize that I am a good brand partner and submit things on time and create great content, it is worth paying for. And it took me a long time to feel really confident in that. And the first time I ever asked for like over $5,000 for a brand campaign, I felt like it was a wild ask. And guess what? The right brand partner said yes to that. And so there will be things that happen and there will be people who are questioning your worth, but as long as you never do and you're unwavering about that and you're creating amazing quality content, the right things will find you and you will find the right opportunities for yourself. It's not your job to educate a brand who doesn't understand this. You can if you want to, but it's certainly not your job to. So you can just say respectfully back to them, you know, I appreciate this, but unfortunately I'm not able to budge on my rates, or I'm not able to take this on at what you're offering. So if there's ever a change in your budget or something should happen, please feel free to reach back out, and keep it cordial. Oh my God, I know we covered so much today, but if you want any more tips about setting yourself up for success on social media and attracting your dream brand partners, I do have my free guide, The Influencer Launchpad. I cover things in here like establishing content pillars, a consistent posting schedule, and even fun quizzes like finding your why as a content creator, or the best platform for you to be focused on. So if that interests you, you can grab your free guide at the link down below in the description box, or you can head over to austintassone.com/subscribe, which will also put you on my free weekly newsletter where I talk about more creator tips. So I hope that you'll consider checking out those resources, and thank you again so much for watching today's video. If you're not already subscribed, please do consider subscribing and joining the fam here. I would love to have you, and I put out new videos every Tuesday here on YouTube. So give me a thumbs up down below if you found this helpful, and let me know what else you'd like to see in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you all next week in my new video. Bye!